so we can just go ahead and start. But maybe where we could start, maybe let's just do an intro on National Adoptee Awareness Month and what does it mean for you? And what would you like to tell the world or make the world more aware about adoption or being an adoptee?
Mm. So I think last year I actually had recognized this month as the National Adoption Month instead of what I've been seeing, National Adoption Awareness. And um, there are things that I have learned just in this year alone that I was not aware of. And so this year alone has, like I mentioned before, has just felt like a whirlwind of information and learning. And um, I committed to listening to other adoptees' perspectives and stories when I joined the community not even 2 years ago. So I think my mindset has shifted a bit. Um, I think a lot of us are aware of, all the things that came out this year, specifically the documentary that came out in September, The Frontline. And um, I really just have had to do a lot of self-examination, being self-aware, right? Awareness is the word we're zooming in on, but um, just being able to acknowledge and be aware of other adoptees. My story is one in over 200,000, and I've learned no two stories are the same. We may have parts of a story that resonate with this adoptee. We may agree with this. You may disagree, but just even being aware that the world is bigger than myself and maybe shifting some of my focus outwardly to see, to hear, to listen to other people and their stories, because I think it's so valuable and there's so much merit in listening and hearing other stories that can change your perspective. They can challenge you. They can cause you to question your core beliefs, like what makes you a person and the things that you've believed your whole life. Um, have for me personally been challenged a lot this year. So I think just what it meant to me last year doesn't necessarily align with what it means to me this year, which is um, being aware and acknowledging other people's stories.
Hmm. That's beautiful. Can I ask you if you would, if we can dive deeper into just unpack one of the things that you said about being um, aware of some of the things that you're questioning as far as your values, your own values? Can
Mm.
you give me an example of maybe one or more of those values or things that you have been questioning over the past year?
So one of the things I've been questioning in and of itself has been adoption. I'm a product of adoption. I'm an adoptee, and it's been a struggle for me because the very things that are built into me from the beginning of my life, the stories I was told, and the fact that I was very fortunate to have a good upbringing with a loving, supportive, adoptive family. I think for a lot of, well, I would say probably even, I hate to say it, but half of my life, I had the rose-colored glasses on. Um, and not to invalidate my experience, because my story is my story, regardless. But I think I just thought that's what it all was. And that, everyone must be like me. And this is, a kind of, I grew up in a sheltered household. I wore the rose colored glasses, but I can be the person that can say, I've had to take those off because, you don't know what you don't know. But as you learn and you listen and you grow, and now all of a sudden you do know some things, it's on me to acknowledge those things. And can I hold that up to what I've been taught, believe my whole life? Can I humble myself enough to say, hey, maybe, let's take a look at these things. Let's really listen. Um, and I will tell you, it was a very uncomfortable part because I was like, I just was blown away by other people's stories that, like, how can this be? You're almost in disbelief, like you talk about in and out of the fog. And I don't even think coming out of the fog is linear, because it's, you're out and then you're kind of back in, and then maybe this part of what you believe is back in here, but you're out over on this topic. So it's been like a whiplash scenario for me, where I'm just like, what is going on? But um yeah, I think for me, I've had to really examine who I am, like my being, like who I am, what I believe, what makes me who I am. Um, and it's been a little painful. Um, there's been a few things in my life that I've questioned, and I said I'm gonna go down this road. It's not going to be easy, but am I willing to open myself up to this? Um, am I willing to be curious and to be humble and allow these things to come into my life, that I can sort through them. And it's not an overnight thing either. Um, and I think what really pushed me was hearing stories from other people, listening to the Frontline documentary, and just, I don't know where I stand yet, I'll be honest. But I can no longer say, you know, I think it's an absolute, which is what I used to believe. And, after I go through this journey and I sort through all the things, and I continue to listen, will I still end up where I am? Probably not. And I think a part of me was scared to even start this, because I was like, I'm probably not going to be where I was a year ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. And that's startling. That's scary, because you're like becoming into this bigger awareness of yourself and others and the world. And it can feel overwhelming at times, but I have found such meaning in connecting with people in our community, um, listening to their stories and perspectives, uh, getting to know them a little bit better one on one, and just like what makes them tick. Apart from being a Korean adoptee, like how did your story, how did your journey bring you to where you are and who you are today, kind of thing. It's fascinating, and no two people are the same, which is even more fascinating to me. So um, I know that's a really long answer to the question, but it's having um, to start down a journey that I was scared to, because I think in my heart I knew that when I come out of it on the other side, whenever that is, it's not going to be what I've known my whole life. It's even a part of me, um, and I think there's a lot of this. For me, it was like it has to be one or the other. Like it has to be this or that, me versus this. It can be both, and I can acknowledge both, but I think that my mindset and my perspectives are shifting, and it's good but scary. So
Thank you so much, Kirsten, for being willing to share so openly and vulnerably, because it really creates safety to really just sit with our feelings and going forward on that journey, saying yes to the journey. I feel like is what life is, but our whole being and our mind and our heart, oftentimes we just want to stick to what's familiar and what feels safe. And for us as adoptees coming into this world without that kind of safety can be extra kind of scary to step into the unknown and possibilities. And I just really have to, well, not have to, but I really want to just raise you up in just letting you know how brave you are and how amazing it's been to witness your journey and to be able to share in the emotions and the processes that your bravery allows to be shared with us all. And it's true. It's not a linear experience. You know, the fog is not something you're just in one day and out one day. You know, and there are parts and that can be in the fog, and it's other parts that are, you know, more tangible and that are accessible, and feelings that are more easy or more experienced, and other areas that just feel like we're still, you know, reaching out for possibilities or some form of grounding or safety still. So I really appreciate your deep reflection. Thank you.
Yeah, something comes to mind. I just want to put it in there because it came up while you were talking about your journey. Ignorance is bliss. And I think that's something that like I've heard, but I didn't really understand, quite grasp the concept. But I think it applies to this journey that we're on. Sometimes if we think if we can go back to put the rose colored glasses on and just have ignorance about all of these parts of us that we haven't really been brave enough to explore before, that is blissful because we don't have to change. We don't have to confront these hard truths about ourselves. We don't have to ask the hard questions. And yet, that ignorance causes us to just become stagnant in life and not grow. And the opposite is true when we commit to going on this journey and asking the hard questions and questioning everything about ourselves, our core, down to our core being, our identity. And yet you're committing to growth and transformation and perhaps even heartbreak and disappointment, but you're committed to growth. And that's kind of what I've seen from you over the last year that I've known you, Kirsten, is yeah, you're just going for it. And I really appreciate that and I honor that. And I think it's freaking amazing.
I second that for sure. Hmm.
What else would you like to share about what's on your heart these days? What are you going through or growing through?
Well, I know last time I was on the podcast, that was back in May, and I had just come back from Korea for the first time, and I had met my birth mother while I was there. And then when I got back stateside, I decided that I was going to look for my birth father. And so, if you want to know all the nitty gritty, you can listen to the other episode. But kind of picking up where we left off, I had anticipated that I was going to have more time to kind of just, process everything from Korea. And I also thought I would be able to process it quickly, which I'm not sure what I was thinking, but um yeah, so I was like, okay, let's search for my birth father. Like, why not? And it honestly was a little startling to me to receive news that they submitted their paperwork to the NCRC, and it was less than 2 weeks. The social worker was like, "Hey, we found an address. We're going to send him a letter now." And I think I was, like when I came home from Korea, I kind of felt like I was walking around like in a daze. I was confused. I felt a little lost. My time in Korea was amazing. I am so um, thankful for the time that I was allowed there. And but once you step over that threshold, once you open that door to the unknown, to possibility, it's like open. And so just like you can't put rose-colored glasses back on once you've taken them off, I can't shut the door. So the first 2 months, apart from jet lag, I just felt like I was in a daze. Like I just felt like this disoriented person. And you're going through the motions because life continues on, with or without you. And I found that like there was some kind of disconnection between my processing and my Korea and trip and all those things, and still having to keep up and maintain my normal everyday routine. So it was a little hard. And I also didn't realize that I would come home with so much. I came home with joy, obviously, but I also came home with so much sorrow, and I didn't know why. I was like, well, I mean, I had this opportunity to go there. I met my birth mother. I got to take my oldest son with me, and I just couldn't understand myself. Like, why am I so sad? Why do I feel this deep ache and sorrow that I didn't even have when I was looking for my birth mother, you know? And it's the past 6 months. It's been a little over 6 months now since I've been there. And like I said, this year has felt like organized chaos. It's just felt like this wild, amazing, crazy ride. And it's like on a loop. Um, but I would say, I know you said you noticed, so I chopped my hair off today. I have been tempted before to just shave my head at least once in my life, but not there yet. Maybe, later. But I did chop a significant amount of my hair off. And I feel like the past 6 months, I've been going through this stage of mourning in my life. It's when once you're in reunion, you meet your birth parent, you find them. I think a lot of times the story kind of just drops off. Just like in the beginning of our lives, we're told the story, well, your life starts today when you came to the US, but there's so much more. So just like with being in reunion, when I got home, I was like, well, now what? And now I'm stuck with all of this emotion and feeling and things I haven't felt before, and I don't even know how to identify or process. And I went through this 6 month period of just this intense feeling of sorrow and longing and mourning, um, a life that I never had. And it's tricky because, I've had people ask me 1,000 times, like, oh, would you go back and change it? Like what you know now, if you knew then, or if you had the chance, would you go back and change your life? Would you have stayed in Korea if you had the choice? And it's like, I feel like sometimes it's an unfair question because I don't know and I never will know. Can I see a glimpse into what maybe I would have had, like the culture, the society, the food, seeing parents walk down the street of Seoul with their children. Um, I don't know. Uh, but I got to see maybe a glimmer, a glimpse of what it may have been like. And it was enough to drive that question home further, like what would life have been like? And then, my my Oma's story is very sad and tragic. And um, she was forced to give me away by my birth father. And that's a hard truth. One that's taken years for that to actually even come to the surface. And between my birth father and the doctor, she said I felt helpless. I was forced. I didn't even know your father was going to do adoption until after you were born. And to feel her pain of helplessness and having no say and no rights, and she blames herself. I should have fought your father harder. I should have done something. And after they parted ways, and she went back for me, and I've mentioned this before. She went back for me, and she missed taking me back home with her by like probably a month. So that even added an extra layer of, oh my gosh, like, how can that be? Like my brain just couldn't even comprehend that, you know, I was this close to having a completely different life. And while I love my life here, I love my family, I've had a good upbringing, and I'm so grateful and thankful for that. But to even just try to comprehend that I was this close to having a completely different life, and it just was a little overwhelming. And so I just went through this period of time where I just was like struggling to get through the day. Like I wouldn't say I was depressed per se. Maybe I was, I don't know. Um, but just, as much as I love having a vibrant life and color and fun and all the things, I just felt like my eyesight had dimmed a bit, I guess, or my vision, my gaze, I don't know what you want to call it. And I just was like, I don't like this feeling, but I have to work through it in order to uh, get on the other side of it. And so it's been about 6 months. I've definitely I've had to go through a time of just crying. Um, Sometimes I sing. That's also therapeutic for me. I started therapy in August for the first time. I actually completed 6 sessions with a therapist, but she actually is leaving the practice, and I have to find a new therapist. But so I was like, am I supposed to be doing this or not? But again, committed to growth and working on myself and having a healthy way to process all the things. And so I feel like even a couple weeks ago, I still felt a little lost, or I felt a loss of something. And being able to identify something, being able to work through it in a healthy manner. And now, we're coming up, it's the beginning of November. I feel like I still have some things to work through, but this kind of like heavy cloud that had been with me for so long has kind of dissipated some. And I've been able to kind of find my footing a little bit, to steady myself and to just be like, okay, like this is life. This is real time. This is my life. And how do I want this to go? And so chopping my hair off is kind of symbolic. Um, I think there's certain cultures where they like will shave their heads or cut their hair, when they're in mourning and things like that to show that they are, in this period of time. And um it just was something I wanted to do to symbolize that I think I'm coming to the end of that harsh mourning period. Not that I still don't feel loss or sadness at times or longing, but again, life is always shifting and changing. So it's shifted a bit. And I think that heaviness that's held me down for so long this year has started to lift a bit. And that gives me hope. And also knowing that I can endure this, right? And it's going to be okay. So, long answer again.
That's so beautiful, Kirsten. Just choosing to continue on the path, to go forward, to feel the feelings, even though they're tough, and to really just stay open and feeling, because it's too easy to shut down and to go into those places of depression, and I think those places are okay if they're temporary, because even in those places we can process, but it takes a lot of strength to continue feeling and to process heavy feelings and to go through the morning. And we don't really, we're not, I feel like in especially the United States culture, we're not really given opportunities and rituals and such to be able to process our mourning, of like what kind of life could you have had potentially, and being able to like sit with those feelings, I think, is how we build our resilience and our strength, and we learn to love ourselves on deeper levels that we didn't know was possible before.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Kirsten. And I yeah, I mean, I get how this year has been a huge year. I feel like, I don't know, it feels like it's been 10 years. I don't even know why. It just feels like a very long period of time. I think because I was maybe also on a similar journey of questioning and committing to growth and change. And yeah, we worked a lot. We worked a lot on ourselves, didn't we? And I think now I'm ready. And also part of it was just like, giving so much. And it's like, and I know you're a mom, a wife, you're like a caretaker, you're giving so much of you, even your job, your profession, you're giving, giving, giving. And I think that's a common thread that I've noticed with a lot of adoptees. We are the caretakers and we're giving so much. This past weekend, we were at the Empowered Adoptee retreat.
Mm.
And even though we did a lot of work giving to others so that they could receive, Lori, you could probably speak for yourself, but I know personally, for the first time in a very long time, I opened myself up to give myself permission to receive
Mm.
love, receive compassion, receive miracles,
Mm.
and all of the things that sometimes I don't really allow myself to receive. And it wasn't just nourishing, it wasn't just feeling good. But what it's done for me, I've noticed this past week when I'm trying to integrate all of these things that I have learned and what I felt over the weekend and from everyone there, I've been able to rekindle some of these parts of me in my life that I am much better equipped and prepared to give even more now because I've replenished my sources, my light, my energy, and I am now so much more in tune and aware of what people around me actually need, that I've just been having like major breakthroughs with all of my clients, and just it's been amazing. So I'm like, oh my God, like I've tapped into even more of the potential that I have really felt like I've wanted to, and I didn't know how to do it. I'm not saying this
Mm.
is everyone's way, but my way was to allow myself to receive it. And so that's maybe a message I have for you and other adoptees that maybe need to hear this message. Allow yourself to receive. It's beautiful when you can do that, and it's so needed.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with myself is because, being, like you said, the caretaker and having all these responsibilities, and not that I don't like what I do, or, of course I love taking care of my children, but um I don't know why and this is something I've even worked through a little bit in like my therapy sessions, is just it's hard for me to accept help. It's like I love to give help, but I don't always like to take it. And I'm like, I don't know why. But just even um that is encouraging to me, because I said I do struggle with that personally, just allowing others to pour into my love tank, to replenish, to give back. I don't know why it's hard for me to do that, but I think I'm so used to just being in a constant state of go, go, go and do because I have to. That sometimes allowing people to help you and to receive that love and that replenishment, it can feel awkward and uncomfortable. But I'm trying to learn how to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Um, you know.
Yay. Yes.
So
Yay, on
Love it.
receiving. I've been thinking a lot about receiving as well lately, and I've just been thinking about, well, what does receiving look like for me? What does that look like? And what does that feel like? And just asking myself and imagining, well, how do I want to receive? You know? And what does receiving, um, you know, look like really? And answering, giving myself the opportunity and chance to feel into what those answers are has really benefited me a lot, because then it allows me to be more open, and also to be more present to being a good receiver. And then it also brings up if there's any resistance to receiving, and if it feels right, I ask that part of me that feels resistant, well, what's in the way? Why is this scary? What's under that feeling and under that resistance, and then bringing more love and compassion and possibly even updated information to that part that might be still scared to receive has been helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Lori. And sending you a lot more encouragement to keep leaning into that. I
Yes,
love this.
I'm sending you so much love, Kirsten and Claire. I love for
Yeah.
you to practice just receiving this love that I'm sending you right now and just
Mhm.
cherishing you both and like the women that you are, the work that you do in this world, that inner child
Mm.
that just shines in your being and all that light that just gives so willingly.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Wow. Wow. I
Oh.
feel the love. I feel it. All right. Is there anything else that we would like to share? I feel like we've shared a lot, Kirsten. Is there
Mm.
anything else? I just want to open it up for you.
I think, yeah, we have talked about a lot and we've received a lot of love. Um, but I guess, I, for me, becoming a part of this community, like I said, not even 2 years ago, has just really, I guess, blown my mind in a good way. Just seeing and hearing other people and their stories, like I said, and I'm just really so thankful um, for you, both of you. And I just am so thankful that there are people out there that can offer encouragement and give love and resonate, and you find this camaraderie. And it's just been such a blessing in my life. Not just only being able to see visually people who, you know, we say look like us or, resemble us, but you know, just that visual alone is so comforting. And I appreciate the people, we talk about, the Empowered Adoptee Retreat and the podcasts and the Zoom calls. And just, I'm so humbled by the people that I meet in a good way. It's just that they show up, they show up for themselves, they show up for one another, and just seeing the beauty of the conversations. There's times when we may not agree with everything someone says, but it's being able to, for me, look outside of myself and who I am. And this sounds corny, it's rhyming, yearning to learning, right? But I do have this in my heart that I want to hear people. I want to see them. I want to encourage them and help them. But I find it's so much more tenfold that it's like I'm the one being helped, whether they realize it or not. Something that they said, something that they shared, them just showing up. It's such an overwhelming privilege to be a part of something like that. So I just encourage people, like, when you are struggling, when you have something exciting to tell, if you have something sad to tell, like, tell it, reach out, because there's people in our community that are always willing to listen, and that they are willing to open their eyes and see you for who you are, and who you're becoming. And so I take joy in that. I take great comfort in that. And I'm just very thankful to be on this journey with you all. So,
Beautiful, Kirsten. Oh my gosh.
Mm,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
yeah.
being a light for all of us.
mhm,
And I get it. I get what you're saying. I truly feel the same way. And
mhm.
yeah. Well, thank you again. I'm so happy to see you. And are we good? Like, do you want to add anything, Lori? I think.
I feel pretty complete. Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like that was great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
feel good.
Yeah, so good. So heart